Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to go with a little bit of a pastel look again. This time we're going to do a one bag and one tip buttercream marbling technique. And I'm also going to show you how I applied the crystals to the side, the sugar crystals, and how I use edible gold paint to add a little bit of extra touch to it. And these are the colors that I am using on this cake. They are all Color Mill colors, and I will leave a a link in the video description where you can get these colors as well. And I'm also using white as my background color. Now, this is how I load the bag. I just use a piece of saran wrap, a long piece of saran wrap, lay it flat on your counter. Then I'm going to first put white in a bowl because that's going to be our main color because I wanted this to be pale. And then we're going to layer in little bits of the other colors in there. Now, you can do this darker if you want to, but I do find that if you have a dark background with some lighter colors mixed in, the dark kind of overrides the light. So I tend to use this technique just when I'm using the pastel or the lighter colors. And I'm just kind of marbling it in softly. You don't want to overmix that or you're just going to mix your colors together. And then you just grab globules. Is that a good word? That is not very appetizing, isn't it? Is it? We're going to grab pieces of, globules of buttercream and just plunk them on the saran wrap. There's really not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to this because you'll see that once you are applying it, it all kind of gets mixed together anyway. Not in that it's going to neutralize itself out, but don't worry so much about how you're putting it in the bag. And then I'm just wrapped it up and I'm going to wrap up those ends to seal the buttercream in there. Now I'll cut off the tip of a piping bag. I use the larger piping bag for this because the tip we're going to use is your large flat one. It's a very large. I'll leave the link in the video description for that also. These are Wilton tips that I like to use. And then you just put your bag in there and then you just apply it in kind of a wiggly motion. Not overly wiggly, but just kind of up and down. And you're going to have a lot of buttercream on your cake at this point because we're going to remove most of it. So you do kind of end up wasting some buttercream, but hold on to that buttercream. If you use my recipe anyway, I can speak for mine, it does freeze very well. And you could use your leftover buttercream to mix other colors later, darker colors. Or you can just, if you like the color when it's all mixed together, just use that on a cake. Just don't throw it away. And then I'm just kind of removing the extra here because it's, like I said, a lot of buttercream. And I'm just using a bench scraper to remove that extra. Don't worry about it being perfect at this point because we're going to go back in and fine tune it later. And I like that ragged edge to the buttercream. That was intentional. I wanted to make it like a tri-layered design since this is such a tall cake. Then I'm just going in with the white on the top, just piping it in there. Now you could freeze it in between, but I find you really don't have to as long as you're not over scraping after you've applied it. Just do a good healthy amount of buttercream here. And this cake is a 6-inch cake, and I believe this is probably about 6 layers of cake. Now you're going to want to put a board in between since this is a double barrel with some supports after about your first 3 layers, just to add some support to the top tiers. Otherwise, it will squish your bottom tiers. It's a lot of weight. So make sure that you use some support. Sorry, I don't show that on this video, but I'm sure I have a video somewhere where I show that. And again, just smoothing it all down. And we chill for 1 hour, a good hour. And then I'm using a bench scraper again. I like to use metal because metal seems to remove the buttercream a little easier. And you can heat it up with a blowtorch or a creme brulee torch. That helps too, or dip it in hot water because what you're doing is you're scraping away most of the buttercream, just leaving about 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch left on the cake. and exposing those marbled lines. I just love that technique. I think it's so pretty. And then I just put it back into the refrigerator to chill while I am painting the leaves. These are are they silk? No, I think no, yeah, these are silk leaves. I'm sorry, guys. I did this, I filmed this a couple of weeks ago. So trying to remember all the details. And there I was showing you how I thin out my luster dust with Everclear to use in an airbrush. Now, I've seen other creators say that you cannot use anything but airbrush color with an airbrush, and that is the safer method to do. It will tend to want to clog up your airbrush. You just have to take some time and put your finger over the tip of your airbrush, push on the lever, and get the bubbles to go backwards into where your paint is to kind of clear up that tip a little bit. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I'd rather do it this way than paint it by hand. But on the cake, we are going to have to paint by hand. And I'm just using a smaller brush here, a smaller tipped brush, and I'm just defining that line in between the marbling and the all over buttercream, all over white buttercream, because it is this is one of those designs that's it's pretty, but if you don't look at it close up, you're not necessarily going to see the difference in the colors unless you point them out by adding lines in there. So I'm just going to paint the line in between the marbling and the top color. And I will go back in and add some more gold lines after I've applied the sugar crystals. But at this point, I am thickening up the line. I kind of did a rough draft with a thinner line and then went back in and thickened up that line so you see it a little bit more. Now, I have a link to all my favorite products that I purchase on Amazon in my video description. But when it comes to luster dust, my true favorite is Truly Mad Plastics. And I don't have a direct link for them. You have to go onto their website to order. But it is worth it. It is more expensive product, but it has the best coverage of anything. If you don't want to go through all that, there is another luster dust that I like almost as well from Amazon. So go ahead and check that out. And while you're at it, guys, take this time to go ahead and subscribe while you're here. I really do greatly appreciate it. And like and share. Let's get those numbers up, those subscription numbers up. I have a goal of 200K that I'd like to get to, so that would be appreciated. But that's enough of that. Now we're going to add our sugar crystals. This is just a pre-mixed sprinkle mix that I bought at Michael's. And I added some, since this cake is chilled, it's not going to stick to the dried, chilled buttercream. So I just brushed on some piping gel. Piping gel is great for this type of application. I use a piping gel in a lot. It's almost like it's my edible glue of choice. And then I'm just using my fan brush and just brushing it up on the sides there. I didn't want to have a real defined line, since the other line is, and on the top, those two lines are more, they're not straight by any means. I am mimicking that with the sugar crystals. So I go ahead and brush them up there. And with that piping gel, it's going to stick very well. And then just use my hands to just get a little bit thicker of a coating on there. And then I'm using another brush to just kind of push those sugar crystals into more of a solid line where they stop, instead of being, what's the word, graduated up? Gradiated. I wanted it to be more of a wavy line with those also. And then I thought, why not go back in and add some gold along the edge of that as well. I like things in threes. Odd numbers tend to visually be more appealing than even. So that's why a lot of times I'll go back in and add a third of something, whether it be flowers or design elements or fault lines. And then I'm just attaching these flowers with some buttercream. Those are silk flowers. Guys, I do love to make sugar flowers, but I just honestly don't have time. I just don't have time. I wish I did. I almost feel like a fraud in a way by using silk flowers, but for the time I have to record my videos, I just don't have that kind of time. So please forgive me, and just know that I would prefer to use fresh or edible. And since there's blue in the sugar crystals, I went ahead and added some blue flowers as well to kind of just tie that all in together. And then adding my gold leaves. So there it is, all together and all done and all prettified. I hope you liked it, guys. Like I said, please like, subscribe, share, do all the things. And hope you got some information and some inspiration. And we'll catch you on the next one.